Hello guys, welcome to the current series of JMeter tutorial for beginners. In this video we are going to learn about JMeter Listener. So the first question is, what is a JMeter Listener? So JMeter Listener is something which listens to the requests, as the name says, listens to the requests generated and also listens to the responses received. It not only does this thing, apart from this, it also does one main thing, that is calculations of file size, say size and time, right? Which is very important. Now let us just see this in action, how it works. So let us just switch over to JMeter now. Now in JMeter, what we would be having first is, we would be having a thread group. So I can add a thread group with the help of a shortcut. So let us just ignore this and let us add a thread group right away. So right click over test plan, go to threads and thread group. Now the thread group has been added. Now the next thing is, we need to add some samplers. So I'll be adding a sampler named as, say, Google Home, right? And the protocol is HTTPS. The server name is www.google.co.in, right? The port number is 443, by default port number for HTTPS, right? This is done. Now let us just add some more requests. So over here we would be adding a request for Rediff Home. So Rediff Home, right? And the protocol is HTTPS. The server name is www.rediff.com. Port number is again 443. This is also done. Now we have two requests. If I run these requests, you can see that I can run these. First of all, let us just save this test plan. So this is listeners. So I'm just providing it some different, say, dummy name, right? So over here, this is done. Now this would be executing. The problem is that the test is executing and it has executed well, but we are not able to see any result. Now in this case, we would be using a listener. So right click over the thread group or right click over the test plan. So you can add a listener, and the listener that we are going to use is view results tree listener. Now over here, if I run this test now, you can see that this test is executing and we are getting the results as well. So first is first sample which is successful. Second sample, this is also successful. If I go to the first sample, you can see that these are the results. The thread name is thread group 1-1, and I told you about some calculations like time calculations and size calculations, right? So you can see that the sample started at this particular time. It took a total of 468 milliseconds for the complete load. The connection time was 267 milliseconds. The latency was 456 milliseconds. The total size, which was size of the data received, was 15233, right? And it is in bytes. The sent data was 121 bytes, and a lot of other things, right? Now, as I told you about this, that it listens to the request and it also listens to the response. So request is this. The request method was get. The URL was this, that is https www.google.co.in, right? So this was our request, and what was the response? If I go to the response data, you can see that there is some data shown, right? Now the thing is that we won't be able to understand this data. So what I will do, I'll simply specify that data as HTML, and you can see that a kind of page would open here. It will take a little bit time for this to load, but once loaded, you can see a kind of page, but there are no images. So what we can do is that we can choose the option HTML download images, which will download the images as well. Now this is how a Google homepage looks like apart from the blue color, right? Now let us just keep it back to HTML. Now there are other options as well. Say text, HTML source formatted. If I do this, you can see the HTML code, but it would be formatted so that you can understand it very easily, right? So let us just go with this particular option now, and here you can see that here you can see this is the result. Now right now the thing is, it is getting a bit slow. Sometimes this happens with JMeter, so no need to worry about it. The next time you'll restart your system, it won't cause you this kind of trouble. Now for Rediff home, the request parameters were this, that is https www.rediff.com, and the information about the sample is this, right? Now this is about the simple listener. Now we have another type of listener as well. What is that listener? Which shows us the information about the times and calculations. It does not show about the request which was sent and what was the response received. Now over here, this is the listener, that is, say, view results in table listener, right? So we can keep it here just below view results tree listener. So over here we have this view results tree in table now. Now I'll be moving it here just below this, outside this, right? I don't want to keep it inside thread trip. So this is done. Now what we need to do is that here I'll run this test once again, right? So I'm running this test again, and you can see that it is telling me the sample count. What is the number of sample that this is? What was the start time? What was the thread name? What is the label? What is the sample time? Right? The status of sample, whether this is failed or successful, the number of bytes, sent bytes, latency, and connect time. So this is the information which is available in the view results tree as well on the very first tab. Now instead of going everywhere, you can do one thing. You can simply analyze these results for, say, more tests, right? If I specify the loop to 20, right? I'll run this test. Now you can see that the results are increased, and you won't be able to go to each and every result here to analyze their things. You can simply open view results in table, and you can see all the results here. Google Home, Rediff Home, Google Home, Rediff Home, the times they took, the data they transferred, right? So, and what was the sent data, what was the latency, connect time. So it is showing us all the things that we usually see over here in the view results tree as well, but all in one place, right? It tells us a lot about other things as well. The latest sample took this much time, right? And the average time was 179 milliseconds, and there is a deviation of 99 milliseconds, right? So this tells us about a lot of things, and this is how you can work with it, right? So this was about listeners. Thank you.